Hi everyone, it's episode 24 of FPL BlackBox. Hope you've all recovered from which was a pretty interesting double game week. I know yesterday was a bit of a damp squib for everyone, but overall it was quite exciting. How did you get on, Mark? How are you doing?
I thought I did all right. I mean, everyone was moaning about the Gundogan injury apparently on Twitter. I missed all that. Was there some kind of outrage? There was a lot of beef about Gundogan captains moaning about him missing the second game week. Am I better not getting into that?
Well, I stayed out of it, but yeah,
Right.
you had all the people complaining, saying, "Oh, 19 points or 80 points." It was 19, saying, "Yeah, we wanted more, we want more." But you got to be pretty happy with that. So I was just like, I'm not gonna, because if you captain Sterling, I mean, if I'd had him, I would have gone for Sterling for sure. So yeah, hashtag points not price or whatever it is.
I almost went. I did a video again without you on the morning of the deadline where I talked about Sterling, and I just didn't do it in the end. And obviously now, in hindsight, it was probably the right call.
Would you have captained then if you bought him?
Yeah, I would have done.
Yeah,
I would have done. And I think I said on the video that there was a couple of things. It cocked up my plan for future game weeks, and I'll be showing that again tonight. But also, it was a close call between Gundogan and Sterling in terms of who would get the most points, because when we knew Rodri was fit, I think it kind of convinced me that it was going to be a tight one. Whereas if Rodri had been out and Gundogan had a chance of dropping back into a pivot role, it would have been Sterling. So in the end, the fear of Gundogan outscoring Sterling, which is exactly how it turned out, talked me out of it. So I'm kind of glad I did. But I mean, if I was, it was a differential, wasn't it? That's what appealed. And anyone trying to make up ground, It was really appealing.
Yeah, and we talked about it last week. It looked like he was coming into form at the right time. I thought he'd start both games, which he did. I thought between him and Foden, I actually thought they were maybe stronger options than Gundogan. But he's just relentless, isn't he? When he plays, it's unbelievable what he's doing this year.
The goals as well. The second goal. I was tweeting about at the time. I was just tweeting about. Has there been a bigger transformation of an FPL asset mid-season? What I mean by that is a player going from being almost totally ignored to suddenly becoming the hottest property in FPL. And it has happened a few times before. And obviously people were talking about Kane and Mahrez and Vardy, but that wasn't in the middle of the season. The only player I can think of changing that much was Toure, who went from a kind of like, not a holding midfielder, but a number 8, to suddenly being penalty taker and a free kick genius. Do you remember when he started taking free kicks out of the blue and started scoring them? And he had a run of penalties as well. He had a couple when Aguero went off with 10 minutes to go, and then they won a penalty immediately and Toure took it. And I remember this because I didn't have Toure at the time. And this is what I like in this Gundogan thing too. But I think Gundogan's even bigger than that, because this is going from a player that no way we would even consider him in the first few game weeks of the season to suddenly now it's like, well, if you don't have him, what are you doing? And we've
seen. I know. I mean, we've seen players like burst on the scene, like Kane. Like, he was banging them in the Europa League, wasn't he? And then they brought him into the team, and he started performing. That's a bit different because Gundogan was like, he's a defensive mid. No one should ever get him. And then suddenly his role changes, and he's like suddenly the greatest asset ever. So no, I don't think there's ever been a player quite like that.
No,
not who's had like seasons in a particular role and then suddenly is used completely differently.
And people were saying, "Oh, well, he always had this potential," but you look back at his career in the Bundesliga, and he's never been as prolific as this. And and I think I said in the tweet that he's just showing qualities that I just didn't know he had. Like his calmness in the box is just that of a top ranked striker. It's crazy. That second goal again, where he just held the defender off. It's like he's got bullet time. It's like he can slow down the action and just find the corner, and in the way that legendary strikers are able to do. And I never thought that Gundogan possessed those qualities. But yeah, it's fantastic. It is a fantastic. What a turnaround for him, and what an asset he's become, and a gift to us halfway through the season. But it's going to be interesting.
What's going to happen with him? Yeah, you're going to say with De Bruyne back.
I don't know. What's your theory on that? De Bruyne back on penalties, maybe because of Gundogan's miss. And what would you do if you had free reign, money no object? Would you keep Gundogan, or would you go back to De Bruyne, or would you switch now from one defender?
I definitely wouldn't be switching Gundogan out. I think he's still a good price. I think if anything, it's the defenders who we could potentially lose one of them. Because I mean, Stones now does look much more of a risk with Laporte back. There's lots of games coming, so I would expect Cancelo to miss some games, and I don't want to sell him because he's always got the potential to hit really hard. But I don't know, something like Diaz, Gundogan, and De Bruyne, I think could be really good. It's just going to be really interesting to see what happens with Gundogan, because I mean, in theory, having De Bruyne back will make City better. It should make him better, unless they use him in a more deep line role. But I mean, he was still looking good, wasn't he? Even when De Bruyne was playing, it wasn't like De Bruyne left and then suddenly he started. I think even in the few games before De Bruyne got injured, he was still looking sharp. So yeah, I think it's going to boost him personally. I'm definitely holding him.
Yeah, every chance, because I think the player who's most likely to make way will be Jesus, and they'll go back to playing false nine in the big games. I think that's what we'll see.
Yeah.
And
it'd be Gundogan up
there.
Top.
Yeah, but even when Jesus was playing centre forward, if you saw the goals, you always saw Gundogan getting into the box anyway. He's just got that license to do it. So, NASA land on Mars, Gundogan, the top quality, top ranked asset in FPL. What a time to be alive,
I owned him last season. I owned him for about 5 or 6 game weeks. I don't know. You know when you just remember things like that and you think, how did I end up?
What was your thinking about that? Yeah, go on.
I think I had like 5.5 to spend, and there was just not like this season. There was just no one really around, and Gundogan was on some free kicks and stuff. So I bought him in, and he did nothing for me for weeks. And then I benched him, and he scored 2 free kick goals on the week I benched him, and then I sold him. And that was and I've talked about not liking Gundogan very much.
Yeah, well, you said it was his face.
It definitely stems from that. His face, yeah.
You said it was his facial hair or something, but yeah.
Well, not anymore. I take it all back. I've been wrong about him, wrong about Neto. It's just that kind of season, isn't it?
He's going to be on the wall. I'm going to have a virtual wall soon. I'm going to put him on my wall for sure.
I can't have 2 City players up there, can I? That seems
no, probably not. But Sterling, he's just not. He's not comparable at the moment.
Maybe I'll replace Sterling with Gundogan.
This is it. Right, what we're going to do tonight, I think, is look at the double game, because we had delayed the show till Thursday, thinking cleverly that that'd be great because the fixtures will be out then, and we can talk about double game weeks, and that's it, all over. We'll have a cracking long show talking about that and what we're going to do, and they haven't arrived yet. But we're going to touch on the double game week situation again because we have to. We'll look at Ben Crellin's chart, and we'll look at my plan as well. And what we will do tonight is obviously talk about Leeds and Southampton. So the focus will mainly be on those because they're the 2 teams who do have a double game week in 25, of course. So most of the show is going to be dedicated to that, because looking forward beyond that is kind of pointless because everything's going to be put into flux soon as those fixtures come out, right? So it's disappointing. So let's look back at game week 24, though. Let's look at your team and your score. 96, got to be happy with that, first of all, haven't you?
Yeah, really happy. First like kind of properly good week I've had in a while. Like I put in the description, I think your week kind of depended on, well, A, whether you owned Gundogan, and B, whether you captained him. I think if you captained him, you probably had a fairly decent week. I got a bit lucky. I had a Soufal coming in for Antonio, which was nice. I know a lot of people had like Dallas or Souček, or sort of to get 6 points was nice. I mean, he missed a 1-on-1 though. Did you see that? It could have been.
Oh yeah, I saw it out the corner of my eye. I'd actually left my seat. I was watching it on my PC, and I left my seat to get a drink, and I was looking from down the room, and I was like, "Who's that going 1-on-1 through?" And as I got back, I saw the replay. I just could not believe it. That would have been so sweet.
Unbelievable.
Well.
Yeah, and all the other defenders returned as well. And Loughton as well. But the big decision for me this week was we talked about the bench boost. And if I hadn't had the injuries in my team, so I had Calvert-Lewin and Antonio flagged, and Dean as well. If I hadn't had all those, I probably would have pressed it. I would have done Calvert-Lewin to Richarlison for a hit. So I would have ended up with about 14 points, I think, on the bench boost. So I'd probably have been reasonably happy with that. It now means that I've got to time it well again to not do what you did and get 8 points. I'm not going to use it in 26. I've got it earmarked for game week 30 actually. There's some quite good fixtures, and I've built like a bit of a plan out to use it around then.
So you're going to use
double game week.
You're going to use the bench boost in 30.
I think so.
Are you? Okay. Yeah, because
and then wildcard for the remaining 7 games.
I think some of the teams who have got fixtures in 29, the key teams have got good fixtures in 30, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So okay, fair enough.
So
Interesting.
that's that's the current one. But looking in with hindsight, I think if I had the choice now, I'd probably just take those 15 points and not really worry about it. So a little bit frustrating because I had it planned for last week for quite a while. I mean, it was just Martinez though. I mean, another 12 points. I mean, Brighton should have won that game. If we had anyone that could finish, we would have done. But he was just outstanding again. Like, he's just unbelievable how good Martinez is for Villa. Like, it's just, he's like Pope of a couple of, almost like Pope this season. But you know, when Pope a couple of seasons ago was just literally saving everything. Like, you went into every Burnley match thinking there's no way they're going to get past him. He's like that. So at the moment, it's Martinez up there. I know I keep mentioning him, but he really has been. He's just incredible.
It is incredible what he's doing this season, and it's hurting me because I got him in eventually about 10 game weeks ago, and then got rid of him on the wildcard because obviously the focus was on the bench boost, and it just shows you. I mean, one of the lessons that I've learned from this season is the bench boost can hurt your planning, can hurt your season, and I do think that was one of the issues there. Selling Martinez to get Pope and Johnston because of the bench boost was probably an error. And now I'm paying for it because Martinez is outperforming Pope. And I just hope that, obviously, I'm going to wildcard again later, probably in 30 or 31, and it'll be Martinez who'll be a target then. I haven't looked ahead at the fixtures, but even regardless of fixtures, he's so good. I think Villa do have a tough end to the season. I think this next spell for the next 7 or 8 game weeks is the best spell for Villa in terms of fixtures, and I haven't got Martinez, so that is a problem. And I don't see me going back to him because of the pursuit of double Gameweek assets. I don't think I'm going to change my keeper because Burnley have got 2 fixtures. So
it happens every year. It happens every year with a goalkeeper. You think the grass is greener somewhere else. You change him for someone, and then you never want to change him back because you never want to use a transfer on a goalkeeper. The fixtures are always. I mean, look at Villa versus Arsenal. Now, if you're looking at Pope versus Brighton or Martinez versus Arsenal, you're picking Pope every time. But when you've got a keeper in the form that Martinez is in, it's so nice having that guy just there, set and forget about it. And you're right, it's everything else. It's trying to be clever. It's trying to think about the bench boost, think about double game weeks. I mean, Martinez outscoring Pope this week. Never would have thought that would have happened, but there it is. So yeah, I do it every year. Every year I swap. I remember a few years ago when Pope was at his absolute best. He had a tough run of games, and I swapped him out for Pickford. And Pickford conceded in every game, and I think Pope got 2 absolutely massive hauls in those fixtures. And yeah, it cost me like tens of thousands of rank.
We kind of underestimate the keeper and how important it is, and I think there is there's not a lot to choose from a lot of the goalkeepers, 95% of them, but then the top 1 or 2. Especially the top one is often quite a margin ahead of the rest. And if you've got that keeper and you hold them in the right spells, they can be pretty devastating differentials. Or like Martinez is to me, hurting me every week. So yeah, it's definitely a lesson learned to take into next season. That is to appreciate the top keepers and not give them up so easily, even if it does mean having 1 game in a double game week bench boost situation, which... Yeah, in hindsight, I didn't have a bad one. 93. I'll take that. Another green arrow, a small green arrow for me, not as large as yours, but crept into the top 20k. So I'm happy where I am. I mean, I did invest in this game week to a certain extent. I expected a bigger score, perhaps, or a bigger arrow, or hope for a bigger arrow, but didn't happen. But I'm happy, and I'm positioned okay. I've still got 2 free transfers going into this game week and into the doubles. It just depends whether I use both. For game week 26 or not, so 25 or not. We'll look at that later, of course. I had Pope in goal, Cancelo, Diaz, Kufal, Tarkowski, Rafinha, Souček, Gundogan, Fernandes, Son and Bamford. Of course, I could have gone Loughton. I mean, what did you make of the Loughton goal? It was incredible because it's funny, I was listening to General on his 59th minute podcast and he said, I'm going Loughton, and his reason for it wasn't anything other than Loughton was the cheapest Burnley defender and he didn't want an expensive Burnley defender on his bench later in the season, like leading up to his wildcard. Made perfect sense. But of course, there was also that outing of Palace's weakness on the left-hand side and the fact that Loughton had improved in terms of his attacking potential recently. So some got on him because of that. It wasn't due to the cost at all. But it was some goal, wasn't it? It was his first goal in 8 seasons. Crazy.
I'm not buying any reason for getting Loughton in other than you either didn't have the cash for me or Tarkowski, or you were adopting general strategy of not wanting to spend much on a Burnley defender. You're not
having it at all.
Try and you can mold the stats however you want. I'm not buying it. It's just the stuff of like, it's why fantasy football is, I haven't got him, but even I have to appreciate just how ridiculous. A player who hasn't scored in ever in a double game week, but the only week in which people would actually consider bringing him in, bangs in a worldie like that. And, even the press conference at the end, he was saying, yeah, like no one could believe it. Like it feels like a dream. Like all the talk, like, he was getting stick for it, but it had to be this week, didn't it? Like if it happened last week, you'd be like, oh no, he's done it just before double game. The fact it actually happened in this week is incredible. So yeah, congrats anyone that had Loughton. I'm not even angry. I just think it's because I'd pick Tarkowski or me any day. Although last week we did say that there wasn't much evidence to suggest that they'd get much joy from corners because they don't seem to be that good.
Well, they did. Palace was so bad at them. Rodriguez scored direct from a corner. Yeah, and that could have been me, or it could have been Tarkowski. It just went on Rodriguez instead. A comment from an Ant A here. Mark is talking bollocks there. Loughton is cheap, and that's why people picked him. End of. That's your attitude. I'm not saying that wasn't Ant A. I'm just if I had picked Loughton, I might have tried to spin it and sold it as if, well, of course I looked at the data and so Patrick Van Arnold on the left is definitely the weak link of that. I would have tried, but you wouldn't have bought it, would you? Nor would have Ant A.
Makes a change of saying you're talking bollocks once rather than me.
I'll take it. Yeah,
take that.
I definitely would have just gone, well, Tarkowski and me from corners, they'll win some corners and Palace are weak at them. We did talk about that, right? So I would have definitely gone. And money isn't a problem for most of us. That's why I'm amazed. So the only reason you would have done it is General's theory of, well, if I get a cheap one now, if I need the money later, and he suspects we are going to need our money later, then it's the better option. So I saw the logic there. He must have been delighted with that. And
you've got to see, if you do that though, you've got to see the funny side. Like General wasn't like trying to pretend that he was this like genius who brought him in. Like he was like, okay, got completely lucky there. And sometimes that's kind of what happens. But yeah, I think it's great. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I think.
It's
funny.
Folklore. It's a story you're going to tell, isn't it? And
exactly.
Double game weeks are a chance for players like that to emerge as heroes, aren't they?
Well, look at Aina, the Fulham guy, 20 points.
Yeah, absolutely crazy, isn't it? And so if you have one of those, if you take a chance on one of those players, you have a story to tell, don't you, for the season and beyond. So looking at the Great and the Good League, General extended his lead at the top of that. He's now 49 ahead of me, probably an unassailable lead, but I'm not going to give up. Still quite a way to go yet. I'm trying to close on Fabio Borg in second at the moment. He's on 1611. I'm on 1583. So the gap has narrowed a bit. As you've got a buffer now at second from bottom. So fairly comfortable. And giving chase to Villaronca, 22 points.
Oh, Villaronca, I know. Yeah. I know, and he got 68 this week, so he caught up nearly 30 points on him.
Yeah.
I'm not that far behind him, 22 points. And if I can go ahead of him, then I think that'd be pretty decent. But do you know what? I really liked the look of Late Riser's team this week. And he got 84 without owning Gundogan at all. So, if he'd had Gundogan in instead of Sterling, he would have got an absolute monster because he had Barnes. He had loads of players who performed.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he had a good looking team. He had the 2 Burnley as well. He took a 4-point hit. I mean, he's doing everything right to get back into this. And captaining Sterling is the way I would have gone as well in that situation. It just didn't come off.
Miles ahead of Magnus now.
Yeah. I still haven't contacted him, Lo. I have paid my charity money, but I haven't contacted him. You have. Yes, I have done that. But I haven't contacted Magnus. So it is quite a big gap now, isn't it, to me? 58, that's a shocker. I didn't realise 58 points is...
I know.
Yeah, what's Magnus doing? Lost it. And interestingly, in the bottom table there, my team value, 105.9, is now second only to Magnus, who's on 106. And it's quite interesting because I haven't bothered about team value for a few weeks because... everyone's got loads of money, and I've crept up to nearly 106 million, which is the best in the league, which probably means nothing. But let's see when we play our wildcards whether that helps me. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see. Top 10K. You've done something interesting this week with this because you've not just looked at the top 10K template for 24. You've also compared that to the template in and around your rank now, which is around 800K. So, what's your commentary on this, Az?
Well, my commentary is we get quite a few comments every week saying, it's all well and good looking at the top 10K, but what about, the kind of other ranks? And I've been doing a bit of research this week, and I'll just talk through the top 10k first of all. So obviously we had a few changes this week. Pope came in, so it's Martinez and Pope now. A lot of people have got both, like I do. Other people are now going to be probably selling one or thinking about the bench boost pretty soon, and then dropping one to maybe free up some cash. It's Cancelo, Soufal, me, Stones, and Diaz. So me has come in, no surprise, with the double game week. Then it's Gundogan, Salah, Sterling, Grealish, and Fernandes. So Grealish is still there, despite you called it last week, saying that Villa don't look like they're really going for the jugular with teams now. And I think you're right. I think they're going to be quite happy to grind out a couple of 1-0. So is he the same option that we saw earlier in the season? I still think he's a good option, but I mean his price is nearly 8 million now. And we've obviously got some good picks with like Rafinha and Gundogan and Souček and De Bruyne back now. So he might be someone that people are looking to sell. And then up front, Calvert-Lewin dropped out. So Watkins came in. So that was a really popular move, selling Calvert-Lewin to Watkins, even though Calvert-Lewin's got the double coming up. I know Villa do too, but I'd rather have Calvert-Lewin, I think. He's alongside Antonio and Bamford. Yeah, anyway, so what I did was I just thought I'll just check where I am and see what the template is kind of around my rank. So live FPL by Ragaboli is, I mean, if you haven't seen it and you're into FPL, go to it, because it is like
you can sink a lot of time. It's a rabbit hole, that, isn't it? You can spend a lot of time there.
Yeah, it's absolutely unbelievable. But what I learned actually was there's really not a massive amount of difference between the top 10k and actually any other ranks, like 800k. There's only two differences in the sort of the most owned players, and that's Creswell and Son instead of Grealish and let me just quickly work out who it is. It must be,
it's Son, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Son. It's Son and Creswell in for Grealish and Soufal. So Soufal is actually a bit more of a differential in the top 700-800k. I think that's really interesting, because what it tells me is firstly, you can see why my players aren't getting me huge rank boosts, because I own a lot.
Your team is template, like a lot of our teams. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Gundogan's interesting because Gundogan's only at 97% effective ownership around my rank, whereas he was 130% in the top 10k. So I gained quite a lot from him scoring, which was nice. But the other thing it tells me is I think it just really shows how many more active players there are this year, because I'd expect to see around this rank in previous seasons a couple of weird picks, maybe who scored really well. A few weeks ago, that's like a Aubameyang maybe, who like everyone had at kind of start of the season. But it feels like now the 700-800k is actually still made up of like quite active players who are really into it and doing their transfers every week. And so it is definitely the hardest season, I think, for that. So it gives me a shred of comfort. The main thing is, though, is I think we're going to have an opportunity, or I'm going to have an opportunity when I play the wildcard to differentiate my team. And I'm seeing people wildcarding into quite template teams at the moment, into this template. And I'm kind of just like, you've probably already got 7 or 8 of these players anyway. I don't really get it. Why not wait until game week 30, 31, and then really attack those final 7 weeks?
I'll tell you
that's my plan.
I'll tell you what, I was watching the Green Arrow tonight, and Andy on there was wildcarding into 25. And the reason why is because he wants to bench boost, I think in 26. So he was wildcarding this week for 26. And it was brought in, Adam and Fergie on there brought it up and said, well, how many of these players did you have anyway? And how much of it is that you're doing it, you're going for template players, you're not going for enough differentials. And it was mainly because of the bench boost, doing exactly the same as I did earlier in the season, where you let the bench boost dictate your wildcard. And, again, it underlines the fact that the bench boost is a deceptively dangerous chip in that respect, in that we put a lot of stock into it. And I got terrible. I mean, hopefully Andy does better than me. But yeah, I mean, it is, that's what happens though, isn't it? You start shaping your wildcard to that. And I actually think as well, looking at his wildcard, I was thinking I wouldn't play that, because he was getting template players in and he was making some compromises in order to get a strong bench. Like he was going Stones over Diaz, for example, in order to save money for Kane and stuff like that. And I do think that that's definitely a lesson learned for me this season is linking the bench boost to the wild card can work against you.
I think the chips are whether you like them or hate them, there's kind of different rankings of how good they are. I still think the triple captain is 15, 20 points would be a great return with that. The bench boost, I think, is in a double game week, you could be getting 30, 34, 30, 40 points. But the wild card is the best. It's the best chip because you can set yourself up for a prolonged period of time. You could reshape your team to get in 2 or 3 players who absolutely smash it over the course of the remaining end of the season. And my strategy isn't to worry too much about the bench boost and just to try and time that wild card just right to take out some of these more template players and try and focus on getting some differentials in. So, it's easy to say. It's a good plan in theory. It's just about the trouble is this season has been very much, if you try and deviate from this template, you get absolutely punished.
This is it. But I think
look at Barnes. Barnes is a good example of someone who can come in and shake it up a bit.
It could do, absolutely. And perhaps De Bruyne now is a differential and people wildcarding will probably look at him. But I think when, I'm going to play the wildcard in 31 probably, or maybe 30, that gives me a chance to go for some differentials at the end of the season. At that point, I'll be looking at my rank going, if I haven't moved up, if I'm maybe like 20,000 still, or 20 to 30,000, I'll take some risks. If I'm in the top 10K by then, which I doubt it, but you never know, I might be more conservative. So often your situation guides you in what you do. But yeah, a lot of people saying in chat, Jerome Hughes says here, wildcard is the best chip, bench boost the worst. Why do people wildcard to accommodate the bench boost? It's a good question and something I have got to ask myself next season. But we do it. It is seductive because you think, if I get this right, the ceiling for a bench boost when you've wildcarded the game before is potentially massive, could be 30, 40 points. But it's so often not that, because so often players don't play 2 games, or you get an injury and then one of your bench boost players is needed to come into the 11 anyway. And so, it can be derailed really, really quickly. And that's what happened to me. I lost the second fixture, didn't I? So it hurt me a lot. And then Leeds had that terrible pitch for the one game they did have. It was bad luck in a way, but yeah. And Johnston didn't play the first game.
Only someone had called, Leeds losing that match.
Yeah, well, I need to do a podcast. When I find that person, I need to be doing a regular podcast with them, I tell you.
It's hard to be arrogant when I'm 700.
No, you take that's good. I think that's a very good wind up. Okay, let's look at double game weeks because there was this comment by Pep a couple of nights ago, wasn't there? Which took. Where was I want to know where Ben Crellin was when that broke, because no one expected this from Guardiola ahead of the Everton game. And he effectively says, he was talking about the schedule, saying, you see that schedule that we have at the end of February, and especially March, when the Premier League included 2 more games in this period against Wolves and Southampton. So what he's done there has confirmed game weeks 26 and 27, hasn't he? As doubles for City.
The irony of Pep actually giving us some useful, concrete information on what's happening is not lost on me. But yeah, it appears so. I can't believe they haven't announced the fixtures yet. Ben was pretty sure it was coming yesterday and then again today. But
I was surprised with that as well. With this out there, the Premier League haven't rushed it out. I can only presume they're still locked in debate with broadcasters. That's the only thing that can be holding it up.
Did you see Hodgson today as well? Kind of.
What did he say?
Confirmed.
What did he say?
I can't remember exactly what game he confirmed.
Can you do a Roy Hodgson impression when you say it?
I'm not even going to try.
You can't say that. Okay. Okay.
But I need like a little owl or something to proper. He does look so much like an owl. But he said he used the word threatened. We've been threatened with an extra fixture during this busy time. I like the use of that word.
They've dangled it, have they? It's extra fixture, yeah.
Ooh, don't step out of line. We'll give you this extra fixture.
Yeah, poor Roy's in a bit of trouble, is he, at the moment, because Palace are not looking great shakes.
They are terrible.
Yeah, he needs help rather than an extra fixture. Yeah. So, it's very interesting. Surely they're coming tomorrow. Surely they're going to arrive just as we get the podcast out to make it completely pointless. But
I think the key thing is it going to come before people have confirmed the wildcard teams?
I know, and that's another reason. That was, I'm picking on Andy in the Green Arrow, but yeah, he was playing his wild card, obviously not knowing what the 26 fixtures are, and that, Adam raised that point as well. And it's really, I think late risers, isn't he playing his wild card as well this week? I think he is.
I think he is. Yeah.
So there'll be a few people who are looking at that, thinking, surely I'm going to know these fixtures by the time the deadline. Doesn't look like they are, unless they break tomorrow. I mean, they could break tomorrow midday, which will give you a few hours. This is that Ben Krellin guy. It's like this. We're sponsored by Ben, isn't it? Every podcast mentions him. This is the chart that Ben's put together, and we hoped for an updated version of this, but of course there isn't one, because all we have to go on is Pep's comments and little murmurs from Roy. So it appears what Pep has confirmed there is that City will play Wolves and Southampton we'll play West Ham and Wolves in game week 26, and probably Man United and Southampton in game week 27, which means double game weeks for those teams as well. Wolves will have Newcastle and City, and Southampton will have Sheffield United and City in 27. And we think Southampton could well have Tottenham in 26 as well. It could be that Southampton have 3 double game weeks in a row. That's the kind of news we're waiting on at the moment. It could change all our thinking.
Question for you. If you didn't get the news of the double game weeks, would you still wildcard if you were planning to?
Well, because of the bench boost in 26, I think I probably would, yeah. Because I probably
even though they're not confirmed.
Yeah, I probably would be doing what Andy's doing. In that, if I've booked in,
do you trust Ben that much that he's got this right, even though it hasn't been confirmed?
Yeah, I think between Ben and people like James and Planet FBL, who's also doing a lot of fixture speculation, we've got a very good idea what's going to happen, right? And I think we know 26 is going to be a bumper double game week, right? So what we don't know is who's going to play twice, really, and who they're going to play, rather. So I think, in defence of Andy on the Green Arrow, I would be doing exactly the same as him. If I still have my bench boost, I'd be bench boosting in 26 and playing the wild card to build for it. Having said, it's probably a big mistake of mine this season.
I've got that option, but I'm just not feeling it like that much. Like if you look at my team, I don't like the Leeds and Villa like thing, and obviously I'd want to be getting in probably a couple of Villa players, and I want to keep my Leeds for that 29 fixture as well. I don't know. I'm just looking at the fixtures and not thinking like Chelsea, United, Liverpool. Liverpool have got that good game against Sheffield United, but then they've got Chelsea. I don't know. Like it's like there isn't Burnley, Tottenham, and Leicester. It's Tottenham have got probably the best double game week fixtures, which is Burnley and then either Fulham or Southampton. But other than, I don't want to double up with them. I just don't. I was trying to build a wildcard team, and I was just like, I don't really like any of the players I'm thinking of bringing in. And actually, my team is pretty good. So yeah, I don't know. I think this could be a bit of a disappointment, the double game week 26. I think people are getting really excited about it, but I think people might regret wildcarding in 4 or 5 different players just to attack that double game week and then actually it's a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, but I think it is going. I mean, I always said it'd be more difficult because the European games going into it as well. And when you look at City, for example, now their potential for rotation, now De Bruyne's back, now they've got Laporte back in action in defence as well. Suddenly in keepers, I mean, I look at 26. I'm probably going to have Gundogan, Diaz, and Cancelo. I would be surprised if I get 2 games out of Cancelo in 26 now.
Yeah.
And if I had Stones instead of Diaz, I would be surprised if I get 2 games out of Stones as well. So suddenly, you are losing. You've got some casualties here just out of rotation, which maybe wasn't the case in 19 when we bench boost quite as much because there was that rest. If you remember, we had the FA Cup, and then a lot of the bigger teams had a rest. So that was my point back then, that 26 will be trickier, but it's been made trickier by not having the fixtures yet, and I didn't think that would be a problem. And that's the big deal, I guess, going into the deadline tomorrow. That you're playing the wild card now a bit blind to who you're building for. I mean, I don't agree. I mean, with the Tottenham, I don't agree. I mean, Tottenham, Burnley, and Southampton at home at the moment, as we're going to see, Southampton's defence is pretty awful. Burnley and Southampton home are good fixtures. I wouldn't hesitate doubling up on Son and Kane for those 2. I mean, Kane is going to be... Everyone's talking about Kane as the booked-in triple captain. That might change, particularly if... I mean, I was going to get Kane in this week, but I don't know if I am now. But I mean, that's the other thing. Where are you going with the triple captain? You've talked about bench boosting later, but what's your thinking there? You still putting that in 26?
Yeah, so that's the thing. I mean, if you're playing the bench boost in 26, you're obviously not able to then play the triple captainship. I mean, the other option for the triple captain is this week. It's actually playing it on Bamford, or possibly Rafinha. I mean, Kane didn't travel today, and there was kind of a bit of worry about whether he was gonna be all right. It looks like he is. Mourinho said he's probably going to be fit for the weekend. But I think Kane in 26 looks the best option because, providing he is fit, he's going to start both. The fixtures are pretty good. Tottenham in general are a good team to attack for that week because they've then got the game in 29 as well, and so have Villa too. So that would be the kind of way I do it. This is the thing though. Like I know people are saying you've got to attack 26 with the wild card, but you've got to bear in mind 29. Because if you fill your team up with players who haven't got a game in 29 and you haven't got the free hit, you're going to go into that with no players. And then what was the point?
Yeah.
So actually, in my situation, it makes sense I can still get 11 out for 26, 11 doubles in 26, have a decent squad for 29 and play the triple captainship instead on a player with double game. So that makes sense for my strategy. If you've got the free hit though and the wild card, then I think you're in a really good position. Then you can be a bit more adventurous.
Yeah,
like Leicester, for example, getting 3 Leicester, go for Pereira, Maddison, Vardy maybe, and then free hit for the blank.
Yeah, I think having the free hit really does make a difference to 29 or this period because you don't have to build with 29 in mind. And that's always the case, isn't it? I mean, again, the benefit we had last time was the blank came very, very close to the double game week, whereas this time there's a gap. So this time we at least do have game weeks 27 and 28 to build for the blank, whereas last time we didn't have any gap. So the free hit made sense there. This time, and this is the kind of plan that I showed on the stream last week, and I think you built something similar. And this is what you have to do. You have to look at this. If you haven't got the free hit, you've got to plan week after week, look at the transfers you're going to make and see how that affects game week 26 and 29. So at the moment, I did do Justin to Tarkovsky in 24, as you see here on the chart. And I was down to do Sufal to Dallas, Antonio to Kane this week. And that's all contributing to having 10 double game weekers in 26. And then with 2 more transfers going into 29 and then 2 on 29, I would have 9 or 10 players with a fixture in 29. Now that at the moment is what I'm doing, but I'm already ripping that up because I'm thinking of not getting Kane in this week. I'm thinking of going Ings because he's got the double game week. He's probably now, thanks to what Pep said, has got at least one more double game week in 27. He's probably got one in 26 as well with Spurs. So the prospect of Ings having 6 games over the period of 3, when other players have only got 3 game weeks, 3 matches.
Will he start more, do you reckon?
Well, this is it. I said this on Twitter and I got shouted down. I mean, he has started weekends and midweeks recently, right? So he has been playing regularly, as in he's been playing the midweek fixture after the weekend one. And obviously they've let Shane Long go on loan. So they've got some young players who can come in, but they're even benching Adams and playing Ings with Redmond. So it points to the fact that Ings will play every game, but his fitness is always something we question, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, what do you think of a plan like this? Have you done something similar?
Sorry, I was the original person that did this plan. You copied me and asked me if I've done...
Was your plan? I didn't see any colours in your plan. Like you just done it.
I had colours.
Thank
you. I had yellow indicating the transfer I was going to make and all that. I have to admit though, I didn't go right up to 29. I actually watched your... I know. I think combined, we've this is what we do as co-hosts of the show. We help each other, get the right thing in the end.
Fair enough.
No, I actually saw your thing at the weekend, and I did plan my way up to 29, and I can't stress enough how useful it is because you can look at the transfers you're bringing in, you can see what fixtures they've got, you can see what you're going to end up with in 29, and that's how I came to the decision that the bench boost in 30 looks quite good for me because the players I end up with, like you say, in 29 have good fixtures then in 30. So unless I get another double game week, I think that's probably when I'm going to do it. But yeah, it's really interesting because you look at the strategy and you look at who you can move out and you look how you can strengthen your team both for like 27 and 28, but then also getting a player at the right time. And there's a bit of jiggery pokery with it. So yeah, I would really suggest doing this. Everyone should have a vague plan of what they're doing, unless you've got the free hit and then just do whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean, the free hit, it's a luxury in that respect. And just to say, I mean, I've got the wildcard showing in 30. I probably will play it in 31 for the reasons you said, as in a lot of the players I will have in 29 will have good fixtures, and I'll probably hold them and go that extra week to wildcard. It's a double-edged sword, that, isn't it? Because the later that you leave it, the more information you've got, of course. But obviously, then the later you leave it, the fewer game weeks there are where you can make an impact with it. So I think I will hold it to 31, but we'll see. We'll see from there. Okay, let's look at some data. I'll come back to that later because, as I say, I'm maybe ripping that up straight away. Let's look at some defensive data, and this is mainly really to highlight the teams that are playing against the double game week teams. This is defensive data for the season and defensive data for the last 4 matches. And of course, Chelsea are one of Southampton's fixtures. And what's to note from them is just under Tuchel rather, how well they've performed as a defensive unit. They are the top defence over the last 4 matches, which is no feat when you consider how strong City have been. And they are second only to City over the season. I mean, we keep saying this, isn't it? It's the defence that has benefited from his arrival.
Yeah, and you talk about mid-season revivals. I mean, look at Alonso suddenly back in the picture. Look at Azpilicueta back in the picture. Yeah, it is incredible. And, you know, I still don't think you can... I mean, I looked at the bench, Chelsea's bench at the weekend. And they had like Pulisic, Kante, Chilwell, Mendy was on the bench. I think there was 7 players who I thought would be like first team players like on the bench. Like and then the team they put out is still winning and keeping clean sheets and everything. So to me, they're just a complete no-go except for in defence. And Alonso is a risk because obviously Chilwell's there, but that system is just so good. It's so good for it. And I kind of feel like he is starting to become a risk worth taking because he's gone back to Alonso of old. Like when he plays, he's just in the penalty area all the time. It's unbelievable. It's literally like having a striker in your team who's a defender. So I don't think there's going to be too much, Alonso coming on for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. I think, if you haven't got the bench boost and you've got a bit of cash, I actually think Alonso is a really good pick. Really good pick. I think he's an exciting pick. Maybe not a really good pick, but an exciting pick. I am tempted, but yeah, he has always got the risk from Chilwell. But yeah, defense wise, I think. But Werner is starting to creep back into a consideration.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's looking lively, isn't he? In the new, he's got a freer role, I think, tucked in behind the striker. And he's getting in good positions. He's still missing chances. That's the thing.
Yeah.
He still snatches at chances, which is I mean, you're absolutely right about Alonso. They're playing that diagonal ball to him, aren't they? They're looking at him on the far post and nod it back across, which he did a couple of times in the previous game. And they obviously got Reece James crossing from the right and Alonso arriving on that far post. Yeah, I mean, if he's still,
I think he's first choice. Yeah, I think he's first choice now.
He's got to be the ideal player for us to look at. If you're playing a 30-31 wildcard and he's still playing the majority of games, he's a player to have for the run-in, isn't he? Got to be something.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, talk about Gundogan, but I mean, who would have thought Alonso would be talking about him in game week 25 as being like the ideal player to get in? It is crazy, but yeah, I mean, Chelsea. I mean, I don't know what to make of him. I can't believe he's come in and had such an impact with them, particularly defensively. I thought he might come in and really get their attack firing.
Yeah.
Work out how to use Pulisic and Werner and all this stuff. And actually, attack wise, they're scoring goals, but not really setting the world alight. But it's defensively, he's really got
and that's the point to make here. Minutes per XG conceded over the last 4, 179.1. And Southampton obviously play Chelsea in the first double game week fixture, and it's Leeds in the second. And obviously, the Leeds defence is going to be a much more interesting prospect if you're going in with a Southampton attacker, because they are the second worst over the season for minutes per XG conceded, 52.9. Only West Brom have got a worse defence than that over the season. Over the last 4 game weeks, Leeds' defence is 6th from bottom. It's improved slightly. So 58.4 minutes per expected goal conceded. Interestingly, it's Southampton's defence which has struggled though. Look at the bottom two. Over the last 4 matches, Southampton and Liverpool are the two worst defence over the last 4. Crazy.
What a season, eh? I mean, Southampton got beaten by Spurs right back at the start of the season and then turned things round. It felt like every week Walker Peters is getting clean sheet, and stuff, and everyone's like, oh, Hasenhuttl amazing and all that, and they've just, they've gone to pot, and Liverpool. Honestly, I don't know what to make of Liverpool. I mean, Alisson still making mistakes. I mean, that Kabak guy didn't exactly look like a world-class defender, did he? Didn't have his name up in lights against Leicester. So I just think still playing Henderson at centre back, not feeling that at all. Thiago. Not going to keep going on about him, but something's not right there. So yeah, I'm not surprised. But bottom, that is some far cry from last year, isn't it?
It is. I mean, obviously it's only the last 4, but Liverpool dropping to 6th overall for defence. 76.8 minutes per expected goal conceded over the season. That is only just better than West Ham and Manchester United around that period. And Wolves at 73.2 aren't far off either. It's just been the recent one. Obviously, Southampton's defensive data over the last 4 has been skewed by the drubbing, the 9-0 at Old Trafford. So we can't take too much from that. But if you look at Southampton overall for the season, they're now in the lower half, whereas previously, earlier in the season, they were considered perhaps an emerging defence to look at. So again, this is something worth considering. When later on, we were going to talk about which Southampton or Leeds players to look at. 2 things to take from this is, Ings could be a good bet, but don't expect perhaps too much out of that Chelsea game given Chelsea's defensive form. And perhaps if you're looking for someone like Vestergaard to be a defensive asset as an alternative to Dallas, well, Southampton's defence has been pretty awful of late, and so you'd expect Leeds to have some joy in that fixture equally.
I think the reason people are going Vestergaard is because they're targeting Leeds from set plays.
Yeah.
So their record isn't great, and he is a colossus. So. But yeah, I mean, relying, like we saw with Burnley, relying on centre backs for goals is a bit of a risky business, because you might end up with a Jay Rodriguez scoring instead.
Yeah, if only I had a table later which showed the set piece danger and potential. Of course I have. So we'll look at that. Yeah. Attacking data again. I've just highlighted Leeds and Southampton here. And Leeds have slipped, to be fair. Over the last 4, they're only the 4th most effective attack in terms of minutes per XG, 57.4. And over the season, they were second to Liverpool about 10 game weeks ago. They've now dropped down to 6th overall. 58.3 minutes per.
That was it for a newly promoted team.
It's outstanding. And when you compare Southampton, they're in about the same position in both tables over the last 4, and over the season they're in the lower half. So again, their attack, the potential offered by their attack isn't that great. And Leeds, despite a recent dip, are still a strong attacking team. So
I don't like Southampton at all at the moment. I mean, like last week, against Wolves, normally Southampton, anyone playing Wolves at the moment looks like a good fixture, but I just never thought they would win. I mean, you look at them against Newcastle, 9 men, can't even win that, getting drubbed by United. I don't want Southampton players. I know they might have all these fixtures coming up, but defensive data is terrible. Attack data is not great. I just don't really want any of their players anywhere near my team. So I think I'm probably just going to avoid them completely.
Yeah, it's interesting because
I'll be stuck with them.
Yeah, they are prioritising. Well, they've come out and said they want the FA Cup. They've got Bournemouth in the quarterfinal. They've got a very good chance they're progressing, obviously. And you wouldn't be surprised if they consider them. I mean, I guess they are safe. I mean, they've probably got to get 6 more points to be safe. So you wouldn't be surprised to see them prioritising the cup and maybe resting prior to that quarterfinal, resting some players. But I
mean, they are bottom of the form table, 5 losses in a row.
Yeah,
but it's I don't know. Like someone said in the chat, they're a trap. No, I agree with that.
I mean, this is it. It's fixtures versus form, another classic conundrum. Because if they have got 3 double game weeks in a row, it's difficult not to look at least one of their players, you would have thought. And obviously that player is mainly going to be Ings. But we'll come to that in a bit.
Who else is there?
Well, you got things like Ward-Prowse who will play every game and take set pieces.
Ward-Prowse, he's not anyone should be considering.
No, I mean he's one of those players. To own that guy. He's one of those players who should be a fantasy asset, but never really proved it, has he? And his free kicks are incredible, but you can't book them in, can you? And when we look at data, I'm going to show you some data for Leeds and Southampton players, and you can see how the Leeds attack dominates really, and why the Southampton attack isn't one that seems investable really beyond Ings. Just highlighted Bamford in this. Again, it's the one player who stands out in terms of player data over the season. He's still standing up really well in terms of minutes per expected goal involvement, 150.4. That is ahead of players like Sterling and Salah. Salah 163.3, Sterling 161.3. Interesting that Sterling has gone above Salah in recent weeks, so he definitely has stepped it up. But yeah, I mean, he's the only player really, when you look at these two teams, Leeds and Southampton, he's the only player you would describe as an elite fantasy asset this season. There is another in the Leeds ranks, which is Rafinha, which we're going to look at. But Bamford over the season has been excellent. Over the last 4 games...
Are you not tempted by him as triple captain?
Bamford? No, I haven't really considered a triple captain option. I mean, against the Southampton defence, and Wolves and Southampton, they're not terrible fixtures. But no, it's funny. I hadn't. I'm still debating, as we'll see later, what to do with the captaincy, whether it goes on Rafinha and Bamford. And I haven't really considered playing the chip there. I think I'm just set on Kane, and maybe I've got a blind spot here. Maybe I need to lose the idea that I'm even going to get Kane for 26 and be my triple captain. But I just think Spurs have got those double game weeks coming. We know they've got 2 at least. And it's because Kane is...
But attacking-wise, Leeds are better than Spurs.
Yeah.
And the fixtures, I mean, playing Southampton, I think is a great time. Wolves aren't the same team that we've seen. I fancy Leeds to get something about that. I mean, the other option, which I haven't really seen anyone really considering, is Salah in 26, because he's got Sheffield United away in the first game. Could be a good one, and then Chelsea. So you kind of are banking on the first game, but as long as he gets something against Sheffield United, I don't think it's too bad.
Yeah, I don't
Kane.
I don't like Liverpool at Sheffield United, though. That's the thing. I just think that, I've backed Liverpool players in that fixture before away, and they've struggled. They've won the game 1-0 and seen it out. I don't think Sheffield United are a team that lose a game 3 or 4-0. That's the problem. And
they did to West Ham.
Yeah, they did in that game. So one game that they did concede that number of goals, and we wouldn't have expected.
They were awful. Yeah, they were absolutely awful.
So maybe that is changing. Maybe they're losing hope. I mean, at this point, Sheffield United look like they're down, don't they? So maybe the fight is going out of them. So maybe we do need to reassess.
Kane looks good, but I don't think like we should all just be, because I think this is the thing. You can not you personally, maybe you, but like just in general, we can all think like Kane. That's it. I'm not going to ignore everything else and just go for Kane. And I think I think Bamford this week is really tempting me. If it's not Bamford this week, then it probably will be Kane in 26. But I think there are other players like Salah who we could consider. It's hard. It's hard to get. Triple captain's hard chip to get right. You never know. Gundogan would be perfect.
It is. I think when we look at the captaincy numbers later on, and you'll see, you might take comfort in some of the data I've got later when I look at Bamford and Rafinha and Ings. They're the 3 captain candidates we're looking at, and what kind of returns we can expect from them over 2 games. And it perhaps strengthens the case for the triple captain. And just briefly here, though, the last 4 game weeks, the gap between Bamford and other assets, and certainly Rafinha, is nothing. They're level for minutes per expected goal involvement, non-penalty, over the last 4 game weeks. Rafinha 1 goal, 3 assists. Bamford 2 goal, 3 assists over his last 4 game weeks, and minutes per chance almost equal as well. Those 2 quite considerably above Ings in this data. Ings back on 202.4 minutes per expected goal involvement, non-penalty, and 42.5. I mean, that underlines just how much stronger Leeds are as an attacking outfit, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and it's come at a good time because they've got the double coming up. They've got the game in 29, so it's a good time to load up. And the problem with them is like I said, in 26 they've got that game against Villa. So if you're getting in 3 leads this week to attack that double, then your bench boost is going to probably consist of, well, at least some Leeds players in a game, which I don't think is really ideal for them, which is what's putting me off it. Because if I bench boosted, it would probably be like Dallas, Martinez, and Bamford on the bench. So that's kind of what's putting me off it a bit. But you never know. I mean, attacking wise, they are really good. And yeah, Rafinha, I sold him. I had him in my team a few weeks ago. I ended up selling him. It was a reluctant sale because his ownership's so low and he was doing well, but he's really kicked on since then. So I'm looking to get him back in this week. He's just really good, isn't he? Really, really good player.
Well, I mean, I think he's come into the fore in the last 5 or 6 weeks. His role seems to be changing a lot more. He's developing that relationship with Bamford. His set pieces are getting better. So I just think overall he's just becoming more confident as a Premier League player, and you can see him flourishing. Yeah, and I've got some interesting data. Let's look over the season again. This is just a table showing double game week assets. So this is just Leeds and Southampton players sorted by minutes per expected goal involvement on penalty, and you can see the gap there. Bamford, Rodrigo, Rafinha are the top three. Adams is still the top Southampton asset over the season, 229.6. But you can see Ings is back on 257.8 minutes per expected goal involvement. The Leeds attack over the Southampton attack. I've highlighted players there we could consider. I mean, you've talked about Ward-Prowse. There's a lot of talk about Struijk and Vestergaard as potential players to look at defensively because of the set piece threat. Are you tempted there at all?
Not really, because I'm quite settled with my defence. I don't really want to be making too many like defensive transfers. I've got Dean, Soufal, Cancelo, Stones, Dallas. I don't really think you can argue with any of them. So I don't really want to be getting Vestergaard because I don't really trust or believe in Southampton defensively. And I think you're going to be relying on that kind of set piece threat. And I just think relying on centre backs to get you a goal. They score so few goals throughout the season, and it could happen. You could get really lucky. Congrats if you get it in. But I don't know. It's why I tend to prefer fullbacks because they're generally speaking more attacking and more likely to get something. So. Yeah, no, I'm just not convinced on Southampton at all. I just, like I said, I just don't want them like in my team. Like even with a double, I'm looking like someone like Redmond and being like, Redmond in my team.
No, I don't think it's a consideration.
No, Struijk's an interesting one. I think
he's 3.9, isn't he? So if you get him in,
3.9,
you've got a player there that can sit there on your bench and not use up your budget.
Yeah.
So, and he is a threat from set pieces. There's no doubt about that. He has been really prominent in the last two.
I think purely budget though, because I think Rafinha, Bamford, and Dallas they're the three.
Yeah,
no contest.
So Dallas, you still endorse, do you? I mean, we think that Phillips is going to be out with an injury, perhaps for both games. He could be confirmed for both games. So. That's made me think, well, maybe I need to rethink the Dallas plan. But I look at these numbers and think he's still, in terms of defensive assets who have got a goal threat, he's still out in front here. 517 minutes per expected goal involvement, which is a lot more than the likes of Vestergaard and Struijk over the season. So I still think Dallas...
He's in midfield.
He's in midfield.
And even when he's not in midfield, he's still playing such an attacking role. So he's the second most attacking defender in the game. With a double game week, a game in 29, I honestly do feel if you haven't got him, you're overthinking it. I think he's the best defender to have for the next sort of 4 weeks.
And going back to the Rafinha versus Bamford thing, this is an interesting table. This is double game week assets since game week 9, and game week 9 is significant because that's when Rafinha got his first start. And since his first start, he has scored more points than Bamford. He scored 77 points to Bamford's 74. So, of all the game week assets, double game week assets, Rafinha, since game week 9, has been the top scorer in one. So the case is building, isn't it, for considering Rafinha over Bamford for the captaincy in that respect. So, minutes per point, 16.8. Bamford's on 17.5. This is since Rafinha played his first 90 for Leeds. And we've got to also consider that in the last 5 or 6 game weeks, he's looked even better. So, it looks like he's stepped on again. And Dallas is high in this. You look at that, 77 points from Rafinha since game week 9. Dallas is on 69. So I think that's third overall behind Bamford and Rafinha. So again, any doubts I have about Dallas, I perhaps have to rethink because his recent form has been strong. And you've got to, look down the list of the likes of Vestergaard, I know he's played fewer minutes, but minutes per point's 28.8 compared to Dallas up at 19.6. There is no comparison. So you might get lucky with a Vestergaard over double game week, but Dallas still looks the sensible pick, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. And like we said last week, when you've got someone playing in that kind of advanced midfield role, all it takes is just a pass and a Rafinha to beat 3 defenders and smash it into the top corner. And he's got an assist. He gets the clean sheet points as well. You saw it from Lundstrom last season. It's when you've got a defender in that kind of role, it just has the potential to unlock so many points. It does feel like Dallas is flying under the radar still. I know he is highly owned. I know he's in a lot of teams, but he's not talked about with the same joy that Lundstrom was last season. But he's playing a similar kind of position. Okay, he hasn't hit a 21 pointer like Lundstrom did, but I mean, he got 12 points against Palace just with some, assist.
Yeah,
he's scoring goals. Yeah, he's a good player to own because Leeds do concede a fair amount of goals, and yet he a lot of the time he comes away with an attacking return. So I really like him. Bamford's got the penalties, which I still think takes him above Rafinha for a captain. I think he scored 1 penalty, hasn't he, Bamford?
He has, and since game week 9, Cleach got 1 penalty there. So there was one other goal which perhaps Bamford would have got. So he would have pulled ahead of Rafinha had he taken that penalty. So he's very, very tight. And penalties to some extent outweigh the recent form, which shows Rafinha's maybe got the edge. But I guess what we've got to talk about when we get to captaincy is the ownership and whether you let that become a thing in your thinking.
No, you don't.
No, I know that's what you're going to say. I'm fully prepared for that argument. But, some of us want to try and take a risk, and it's risk versus reward, isn't it? I just want to go back to the set plays because we talked about it earlier about looking at Struijk, looking at Vestergaard. I've got some tables here. First table, minutes per expected goal on set plays. And you can see that Leeds and Southampton are pretty low in that table. So in terms of teams who are most likely to score at set plays, Southampton are 6th and bottom and Leeds are 8th and bottom. So they're not particularly strong at set plays, which is surprising given Ward-Prowse and his delivery. And when you think that, he scored direct free kicks, when you think his delivery would help set play situations, it definitely does. He definitely does take a good corner. But they haven't fully exploited that. So just to go into it a bit more, the third table here shows, again, percentage of successful corners into the box. I looked at this when we looked at Burnley's potential. And so even with Ward-Prowse taking corners for Southampton, they are ranked 6th and bottom for successful corners into the box.
Yeah.
And Leeds are 7th and bottom. So both of those teams, if you're investing in Struijk and Vestergaard, for example, thinking, the potential for assist a goal from a corner, just bear this data in mind. They are playing Leeds, of course, and Leeds, in terms of conceding goals from set plays, are the 3rd worst team in the league, and that's what the table 2 shows. So there is still the chance you'll get something in that Leeds game if you go in with Vestergaard or even perhaps Ward-Prowse on set plays. But I think this shows just how much of a long shot that is, given that Southampton get an XG every 407 minutes from set plays. That's a lot of minutes per XG on a set play. So, yeah, perhaps don't put your house on it, is what this data says.
Agreed.
Okay, let's go back and start looking at the fixtures. And I think, we'll quickly skirt through the prediction tables.
No,
let's
please.
Just get on to next week.
Not.
Let's just get on to yeah, okay, all right, okay. Yeah, you had a good run. Yes, you've closed the gap. It's level.
I did.
Yeah. What happened there? You got 8 right, didn't you? Unbelievable.
I got 8 right. 8 right. Yeah. I don't know what happened. But I think you did go a little bit. You went a little bit rogue. I think you got a bit
get cocky,
a bit overconfident.
Yeah.
You went for a Newcastle draw.
Cocky is the word. Don't mention
cocky.
it. Yeah,
cocky. Yeah, no, I'm happy. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, I mean, like I said, if we can keep this around 50% to the end of the season, then I will absolutely take that. So you're still winning on points. You do get more exact results than me, but generally speaking, we're the same in terms of actual match results.
So far. Here we go then. This week, let's talk about the results.
I do no prep for these, by the way.
No, nor do I.
I shoot from the hip.
No, well, I think this is it. I think we do so much prep for our teams that actually talking about our gut feeling for these fixtures isn't a bad thing. sometimes that's the most honest way of doing this, because I mean, you can look into the data behind this a lot more and base your predictions on data. But I think we do so much with data in the show anyway. It would be very dry if we started doing our predictions like that as
That's
well.
true.
So let's just speak from the gut, really, so to speak. When we talk about Wolves versus Leeds, first of all, Wolves are a side that we don't associate with scoring many goals, but Leeds are a team obviously give up opportunities. So we'd think there'd be something in it for the home team here. But I've got to fancy Leeds away from home. They've been strong, and Bamford and Mafina away from home have been very effective. And I don't know if I trust the Wolves' defence. I mean, they have looked better playing the old system, the three at the back. But I think Leeds could nick this. My head says 1-1, but I'm going to go with Leeds win. I'm going to go with my heart and go 2-1 Leeds.
That's what I had. That's what I had in mind as well. 2-1. I think. Leeds, obviously, confidence boosting result against Southampton. They were losing that game as well, weren't they? Were they losing it? Yeah, I think they were. They came back and won it. So, big win for them because they need it. They've just had a really rubbish season. But yeah, I think it's a good game for Leeds. I think Leeds are almost like Wolves have been in previous seasons, just really attacking, really relentless at times, loads of energy, system that seems to work and suit all the players. And Wolves seem to have lost that a bit. So, yeah, I'll back Leeds 2-1.
Okay. And the other double game week team, Southampton, kick us off on a Saturday morning with a game that...
Aren't these the two teams that you're best at predicting?
Are they?
I think according to FPL Potnoodle.
They are two. I am very good at Leeds. Yeah, I think you're right. No, Southampton, Chelsea are the two teams that I've got the outcome correct.
Yeah, the most
every
right.
time.
Yeah.
So this game, I think I said, didn't
exciting.
I? When Southampton play Chelsea, I should put my mortgage on this one. Yeah, I'm yet to get one of these teams wrong in terms of outcome. So I don't. Really
no, you got Chelsea. You got them both wrong last week.
Oh,
you had a Chelsea draw and you had a Southampton win. So you've already blown it, to be honest.
Never mind. I'll pretend it's still.
I
don't see Southampton scoring in this game, to be fair, because even though I'm considering Ings, I don't consider that I'll get too much from this if I do go in for him. I'm going to go with a 2-0 Chelsea. At least 2-0. They always do well here. Abraham got a hat-trick here, didn't he? Was it last season? He got a couple of goals here. I think I had Pulisic in that game, and I think he came out with something as well. They won quite handsomely. I think they got 4 goals. I'll go 2-0.
Yeah, I'll go 2-0 as well. That was the score I had in mind. You have to let me go first.
I see your tactic now. Draw a level with me and then just copy me all the way.
just copy it exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
I just think they're going to have too much for them. I think 1-0 is underselling it a little bit because I think they'll get 2. I don't think Southampton are good defensively. I don't think Southampton will score. I think it could be 2 or 3-0. But I'm gonna stick with 2-0 just to match.
Very Lawrenson. Burnley West Brom. Oh dear, Burnley West Brom. I'm taking Pope and Tarkowski into this game in hope that I get a clean sheet. But actually, Digne, the new striker that West Brom have got, if we go back to the data that we had, which was players in recent game weeks, was it players in recent game weeks? Yeah, there he is over the season. He's now 4th. He's crashed in minutes per expected goal involvement, 135.6. So they have got themselves a striker who looks a bit dangerous. So I think there's every chance they score in this game. So I'm going to go with another 1-0.
Going first again?
Yeah, 1-0 draw.
Again,
yeah, 1-0.
I'm half tempted to back a West Brom win, I mean, the United game was... I mean, I bought in Rashford this week for Son because I went on the FPL show and I was talking about Fernandes captain. And in the end, Rodri came back and I felt like, I think if Rodri had been out, I might have been tempted to have gone for Fernandes in that game. So I honestly, I know it's easy to say with hindsight that it wouldn't have been a good option, but I really thought United were going to win that game heavily. All the signs pointed to a big United win. So in the end, I bought in Rashford to kind of cover the big win.
Yeah.
And went for Gundogan. And it just didn't transpire. I was quite impressed with West Brom. I thought they played really well. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 West Brom.
Yep. Okay.
Goals.
Gemma, we're looking for the 3 points there. I mean, I think West Brom, I don't really think they've got a chance. I think all the teams down the bottom, Fulham have probably got the best chance of getting out of it. But I think West Brom have got some goals in them now. We'll see a bit more from them, I think. Maybe they'll not get enough points, but they might get a few goals. Liverpool for Everton. Very tricky, this. We think Calvert-Lewin will be back for Everton, don't we? And Liverpool were impressive against Leipzig. I mean, I don't have Salah, so I'm perhaps going to be biased and predict.
I forgot about that.
Predict that Liverpool are going to be not going to be going on a goal rush, and I don't think they will. I mean, I looked at the Leicester game and that they didn't impress me in that Leicester game. I mean, Salah had chances, but he missed a couple. He's going to miss chances in games. We know that. But he did look sharp against Leipzig, as did Mane, of course. I think I have to back a Liverpool victory here. I may well be starting Alexander-Arnold anyway, who's looked a bit better recently. But do I see them conceding? Yes, I do. I'm going to go 3-1 Liverpool, and I think Salah's probably going to hurt me.
Yeah. Interesting one. I mean, Everton v Fulham, I can't ever remember seeing a worse performance than Everton in that game. They were just... I mean, I don't know how a team playing under Ancelotti can turn in a performance that bad, especially considering how we've seen them earlier in the season. I mean, the last performance I can see being that bad was West Brom against Fulham, but you're comparing West Brom to the resources that Everton have and the way they've been playing. I mean, it was so disappointing. They were better in spells against City, but City were just superior. It's hard to judge them. I think they'll make life quite hard for Liverpool. But I think both teams will score. I reckon it could be quite a high score. I'll go for 2-2.
Okay, 2-2. Wow. Okay. Fulham, Sheffield United. I've got to back Fulham here. I mean, have Sheffield United lost their fight? I mean, the West Ham result could be the final nail, if you like. And I wonder whether they have lost the battle now, and they are giving up. But they're not a team you associate with that. And Wilder's not a manager you'd think let his team do that. But I do think Fulham will prevail here. 1-0, I'm going to go Fulham.
Good time to play Sheffield United, I think. And Fulham have been pretty good. I'll back Fulham. I reckon 2-0. 2-0 Fulham.
Okay. And West Ham Spurs. Now, I was buying Kane going into this, but what's the latest on that tonight? Because there's kind of lots of rumours broke tonight about this. He was missing from the squad for the Europa League game. And there was a tweet from the West Ham employee guy who often gives us inside information on the Hammers, saying that he felt or he heard that there was a reason for his absence. Has anyone come out and poo-pooed the fact that he's got an injury? I think, wasn't there a quote from Mourinho saying he couldn't travel as well, alluding to the fact there could be a reason? Yes, but when the reporter asked, because the rumours were mainly around the fact that he hasn't been pictured in any training pics. And he didn't travel with the squad. So it is a little bit strange. But the comments from Mourinho indicate that he will be okay for the weekend. Right. So it does still feel like a bit of a risk to bring him in, but I think he'll play. I think he's just got back from the injury, isn't he? I think he's just being managed a bit, I don't think which is rare for a manager to do with Kane. Yeah, I don't think there was ever going to be a doubt he wouldn't play in the European tie, but I thought he would have travelled. I guess the travelling alone is something that you want to try and miss out on. Fair enough. His record against West Ham. His record against West Ham is incredible. Often in home games, he absolutely takes them to the sword. So I think he plays. West Ham's defence is strong. But I don't know. Despite doubts about it. So I think Mourinho has kind of shown signs that he's loosening the shackles somewhat on the Spurs attack. That cup tie at Everton was ridiculous. I mean, I know he spoke afterwards about attacking football, you concede 5 goals. He's almost saying, there you go. That's what happens. You lose a game when you try and attack. Why do you insist I play attacking football? I think he's feeling some pressure, though, to let Spurs off the leash a bit. So I do think they get a couple of goals here. I think they're going to win this 2-1. Yeah, it's Antonio as well. Is Antonio going to be fit? I don't think he's going to be. He's a risk. No, I'm not sure he will be. I think if Antonio's fit, they score. If he's not fit, they don't. I will go for. I don't know. It's a tricky one. I think Spurs could either win it quite comfortably or it could be close. It doesn't help. This is the content people want, isn't it? That's this is what... Or West Ham could win. You know, it could be a win for Spurs, a West Ham win, or even a draw. I mean, one of those 3 outcomes will be. I'll back Spurs. I'll go for. I can't even remember what you said. I'll go for 2-0 Spurs. I've gone 2-1. Yeah, fair enough. Villa Leicester. I'm going to tip Leicester here. I think Villa are in a funny phase of the season at the moment. I think that they've obviously had a very good season. And I think they're going into games, like I said previously, I think they're going into games now trying to get results. But I think Leicester are the form team in the division at the moment. I was very impressed with the way they punished Liverpool. Vardy's back, obviously. I think he got taken off tonight, slightly rested. He got an hour, I think, tonight. Barnes is obviously difficult to handle. I think Leicester win this, and I think there's a few goals here. I know Martinez is a great keeper, but one of the reasons why he's doing so well is he is getting exposed to shots. That's why he's getting saves and bonus, right? Against a team that take their chances, I think Villa and Martinez will struggle, and Leicester are clinical. Unless it's Barnes who does waste chances, but Maddison and Vardy are clinical. I think Leicester win this 3-0.
Wow, that's very different. That's very different to what I think. I mean, Martin Boyle said in the chat, Villa getting tired. And it's like every time I see the Villa lineup, it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
And it's like they really aren't rotating people. They've really got a settled squad. And I like that in a way, because I think the teams that tend to have a settled squad tend to do better because they know each other and they learn patterns and stuff like that. But yeah, it has struck me recently that they're not the team that were energetic and scoring all those goals against Liverpool. And you called it last week, and watching them against Brighton, it was really interesting to see Brighton outplayed them in that match, and it was annoying that Brighton didn't come away with more. But I do think they have the ability to frustrate and to defend well. Leicester are really good, but again, I mean, against Liverpool, they struggled for quite a while. And then it was just a crazy 10 minutes where they just really turned the screw. So yeah, I'm going to back the old as 1-1 on this one. I can't separate them. I think it's going to be a good game.
Okay.
But I'll go for 1-1.
Couple of things in the chat. Yes, Sir Greg, you are right. This is Game Week 25, and the title does say Game Week 24. My bad. I apologise for that. I keep getting that wrong, and you're the first to spot it.
What title?
At the top, it says Game Week 24 fixtures. It's not 24, it's 25, of course.
Oh, Mark.
I know. And the other thing is, SK says in the chat, Cash injured. Yes, he is. Cash could miss out. And that is quite important. El Mohammadi against Barnes is not a matchup I'd fancy if I was Dean Smith. So I think that could be a play, an area of concern for them. So, yeah, I do strongly fancy Leicester here. And Villa at the moment, a lot of talk about getting Grealish back for the double game weeks, but I'm not as convinced at the moment about Grealish. He's getting man-marked by two players now. A lot of teams going into that game and just sticking two players on him. And that helps people like Barkley and obviously Traore, who's profited recently. But I don't think Grealish has got big scores in him at the moment. I'm not seeing it yet. He can maybe punish me and ram those words down my throat, but I just don't see it. Arsenal, Man City. City are playing all right at the moment, aren't they? They're looking all right, I think. So I quite fancy, I mean, this is any game with City at the moment the outcome is almost inevitable. Is it 17 straight victories in the league? Or overall, rather? It's ridiculous. City to win this just by how much, though? Aubameyang back in the goals, of course. Looking like a fancy asset. Could he be a differential for the end of the season if he plays centrally again? But I only see City winning this. And again, how much does Pep want to go for it? I'll go 2-0. He could let them run riot and get 3 or 4, but I think with the amount of games they've got, he'll manage this out and start resting players with 10, 20 minutes to go. So I'll go 2-0.
Yeah, my first thought was 3-0. I mean, Arsenal were a funny team. I mean, they were awful against Villa, and then they've actually turned in some pretty decent performances since then. Aubameyang through the middle is quite exciting. It's just, do you take the risk on it? I'd like to at some point, but I don't know. It does feel like a bit of a gamble. But yeah, I think City are just going to have too much for Arsenal. Like, Arsenal try to play a lot like City, but have much worse players. So there's only when you've got two similar styles going up against each other, and one team's got a much better squad, you can only really back one winner. So I'm going to go for a 3-0 City.
Okay. People saying you didn't give a prediction for Villa Leicester. You did. It was 1-1. You went 1-1, didn't you?
Yeah, 1-1.
Yeah.
1-1.
United Newcastle. Yeah. United are a hard team to predict. It's on paper looks like a straightforward victory, but we thought that at West Brom and it was anything but that. But you've still got to back United here. I don't think it'll be a goal glut necessarily. I think Newcastle know how to defend, and Bruce can put up some resistance. I will go 1-0 United.
Just a 1-0. I think more. I think that West Brom game's got to have hurt United quite a lot. Like drawing 1-1 with West Brom is completely unacceptable. If you're gonna, if they're even going to finish in the top four, there's so many teams that could pick them this year. Leicester, West Ham, Everton get their act together. You've got Arsenal creeping up, Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs. Like, there's so many teams. You cannot be dropping points to West Brom. So they need to sort it out. I don't like Rashford on the right. I don't know, like Greenwood. I don't know. I looked at that team. I bought Rashford in. I looked at that lineup and I just thought, sticking Rashford out on the right, he's so ineffective there. So hopefully he goes back to the left. They carry on with Cavani. The front three has got to be Cavani, Rashford, and Greenwood. To me,
but he wants to get Martial in there, doesn't he? That's the thing. And he can't get Greenwood and Martial there. That's the problem he's got.
Martial is so frustrating because he's obviously such a talented player, such a good player, but he's just so inconsistent, and he's so infuriating when he's just looking really annoyed and walking around the pitch and stuff. And we saw at the end of last season what he's capable of, but just drives me mad. You look at someone like Cavani, the amount he runs, the amount he's an old boy, not that old, but by football standards, and he's still. The distance he covers is remarkable. So hopefully it's those front three up front. I think United win this 3-0.
I think Cavani's got an injury. I think at the moment people saying in the chat,
So
he's a doubt for the game as well. So Martial might end up playing. That will get Rashford.
I've said 3-0. I'll stick with 3-0.
Okay, all right.
Brighton, not too much for Newcastle anyway.
Yeah, possibly. It's just Newcastle, again, a difficult team to predict. They haven't got Wilson, of course, so I think they're just going to go and put men behind the ball. It'll be a Sheffield United style formation, won't it? But we'll see. Brighton Palace. We always back Zaha in this game, but we don't expect him to be here, do we? In Palace at the moment. I mean, Brighton have got to go into this game full of confidence of getting the points here. Defensively, it's funny, isn't it? We've been looking at Brighton's defence all season, looking at the numbers and going, well, what? There's no way Brighton are a top defence. Brighton are a top defence now. They are actually delivering on that. And Sanchez and Dunk are players that, if it depends on how the double game week fixtures fall, that we perhaps should be considering it. Certainly, if there wasn't double game weeks, they would be on our list. We'd be looking at the fixture ticker and considering Brighton defensive assets. So I just can't see Palace scoring in this game because they've got no threat. And I think Brighton, it's just a matter of can they score goals. That's been their problem all season. 1-0 looks a sensible score, but I'll go 2. I'll say Brighton will win 2-0.
Biggest derby in the league.
Of course it is. It's the one they all want, isn't it? That's why it's 8 o'clock on a Monday night.
Yeah, I mean, it's what the people want. No, I mean, I don't like to celebrate any injury, but what did someone say to me? It's like everything that follows a but is a lie. It's not a lie. Obviously, I don't wish we injure anyone, but Zaha is the bane of Brighton. Like, it is ridiculous. He scores every time he plays us. So, yeah, I won't be sorry that he does miss out. I think Brighton win this. I think we win it. I think we win it sort of fairly comfortably, but a comfortable win for Brighton is probably a 1-0. I don't think we've got loads of goals in us. Welbeck should be back, which is good. I fancy him to lead the line better than Tau and Mopé. I can't see Palace scoring, so I'm going to go for a 1-0.
I think it's the set plays, though. Brighton have looked effective on those. Dunk has suddenly become the goal. Yeah,
Dunk could be a good player to be bringing in because he's got the game in 29 as well.
And Palace are weak. We saw Burnley expose them on set plays. They are the worst side in the league for defending set plays in terms of XG conceded. So I think there's joy there. So I think a set piece goal and maybe Mopé deliver or Welbeck.
Project One says Palace worst team in the league right now. Hard to disagree with that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
they are.
I mean, it's them.
Seems target.
It's them or Southampton at the moment. You'd say who are the teams that they're the whipping boys. If we're going to describe anyone as a whipping boy, it would be them. Last fixture then, Leeds Southampton, probably the most interesting fixture because I mean this will be the game where if you do invest in double gaming assets, you'll expect points from Ings at Leeds. But you'll also expect Rafinha and Bamford to deliver as well. And if you've got a Southampton centre back or Ward-Prowse, you'd hope for some set piece glory. I mean, you've got to think Southampton will score. But again, every game now, I just fancy Leeds to win it. It could be 1-1, it could be a tight game, but Southampton are giving up chances and Leeds are creating chances still. 3-1, I'll go.
Yeah, I'll go 2-1. I think Leeds win it. I think Southampton. Yeah, it's hard to back a Leeds clean sheet. Especially against a team who do have Ward-Prowse. So, it could be Vestergaard gets something. It could be Ings benefits. Ward-Prowse gets something. I don't think I'd be getting in 2 Southampton players though. Like maybe one as a bit of a punt, maybe an Ings or a Vestergaard. I wouldn't go near Ward-Prowse, but yeah, I fancy him to get him. I'll just go 2-1 Leeds. This is what I mean. I'm backing 2 Leeds wins. Bamford really high on the chart, so I think it has to be a consideration. I mean, he's going to be most people's captain this week. I do think he's a consideration for triple.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, I've predicted 5 goals for Leeds. So
yeah, exactly.
Bamford's got to be in the chance of getting 2 or 3 of those, given his involvement for them. I think he's got 56% goal involvement for them.
Yeah.
So you'd think that there's at least a couple in it for him if those results do come true. We'll see. We're going to look at the captains now, and this is, Bamford and Raphinha.
You hold the fort for a second. I've got to go.
Absolutely. We're looking at the captain matrix at the moment, so I'll just talk briefly through this. Unfortunately, the captain matrix is a bit pointless at the moment because we don't have the double game week fixtures. I did hope that this would be a lot more relevant and I could populate it with double game week players, but right now, obviously, we don't know the fixtures. So right now, looking ahead, all we can do is base it on what's in front of us. And game week 25, obviously, we've got Bamford and Raphinha with Wolves and Southampton as a double game week. Ings versus Chelsea. But I've also looked at, when we look at the captains in detail, some of the single game week players as well. That is Salah versus Everton, Fernandes versus Newcastle, Gundogan versus Arsenal, given we hope he's back from injury. Kane versus West Ham, who hopefully is fit, and Son versus West Ham as well. So I think our focus, certainly when Az gets back, I'll be talking about Bamford, Raphinha and Ings. I think even if you do have an inkling that Fernandes or Salah could deliver in those games, I think my feeling is, and I'll show you some evidence why this is the case, you still got to back a double game week player. We had this debate last week with we're backing a City player, Gundogan or Sterling versus Fernandes at West Brom. And it came through, Gundogan delivered, and Fernandes disappointed. So I still think that it's the double game week players we got to look at. Would you agree, Az? Looking at this, I've got some single game week players there: Salah, Fernandes, Gundogan, Kane, and Son. Would you captain any of them over a Leeds or Southampton player?
Well, like I said, I went on the FPL show and I was being swayed towards Fernandes. And I ended up having quite a few debates on Twitter with people saying, logically speaking, if a player's got 2 games, they've got double the chance to return and all that kind of stuff. And it only felt right to be considering Fernandes because it was West Brom and because I sensed there was just so many factors that I think led me to thinking that Fernandes was such a good option that week. I just don't see that this week with any of the single game week players. And I just think Bamford is just miles apart with the fixtures he's got, the penalties, the form, the fact Leeds are an attacking team. I don't think there's any contest between him and the single game weekers. It's Bamford for me. The only question is whether I give him the triple or the double, not do I captain him or not.
Okay, so there's no, even if you had Raphinha, then there's no debate for you that you would go Bamford over Raphinha.
I just think it makes the most sense. I think we've seen it all season. This insurance. It's Luke's word. I won't try and take that away from him. That is Luke's catchphrase. The insurance of the penalties matters a lot, and it wouldn't be surprising to see Raphinha get fouled in the box and Bamford step up and hit a penalty in. And I just like to captain a player who has that in his locker. So I think both are good options, but Bamford is the focal point of all their attacks for Leeds, attacking team on penalties. To me, he's just the most sensible pick.
Okay. Well, looking at the data, it certainly bears this out. Minutes per expected goal involvement, non-penalty, 150.4. Raphinha over the season back on 213.8, and Ings on 257.8. There's no competition there for Bamford if you look at that stat and home in on that stat. Minutes per point, Bamford at 14.9, Raphinha 16.9, Ings 16.5. Again, minutes per shot is stronger, minutes per shot in the box. He wins out on all the usual metrics that we look at when we look at the captaincies each week. And also just to look at the Leeds versus Southampton debate. Leeds play Wolves and Southampton, and that combination is expected to concede a goal every 165.5 minutes compared to Chelsea and Leeds, which is Southampton's opponents, 173.3. So the data points to Leeds there, in case you needed any more confirmation that the Leeds attack was the way to go. I think some people will go Ings as a differential, and he's a class player and he can score. He scored against Chelsea early in the season at Stamford Bridge, of course, so he can do it. I just think Tuchel's form, the defensive form under Tuchel, is so strong. I don't want to back that. And while I think Southampton can score at Leeds, the power, the goal power that Bamford has got and Rafinha has got wins out for me. And it sounds like it does for you.
Jones Bloke 79, will Bamford triple captain himself?
Well, this is it. He plays the game, and I just want to look at this data here. This is.
I keep messaging him. I'm going to get him.
Do
on
you?
Monday.
I mean, he will reply eventually.
My life goal.
I mean, obviously he'll reply, or he'll phone the police. One of those two outcomes will happen. Don't know which one.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is what I like to do. I like to look at pairs of fixtures because obviously these players, Ings, Bamford and Rafinha, are going to go into 2 consecutive games. And so what I've done here is I've looked back at their pairs of fixtures starting from 23-24. So it's every game that they've started, if you like, and paired the fixtures up. And if you look at Bamford, it's quite interesting. He's got a lot of, going all the way back to game weeks 2 and 3. He's only failed to really deliver in 2 game week pairs there. He's got 3 points in game weeks 4 and 5 and 3 points in 19-20. In every other pair of fixtures, he's delivered at least 8 points. And he's delivered double figures in 8 pairs. So 8 of the 12 pairs he's delivered double figures in, which is pretty. I mean, so looking at that, you've got a good chance of getting at least double figures from Bamford over the 2 fixtures. If you look at Rafinha, and obviously, yeah.
I was just going to say Bamford. Whenever I think of Bamford, I think he's a player who needs lots of chances to score a goal. And okay, that might be a little bit unfair, but that's generally how I perceive him. But that kind of suits him. Having 2 fixtures gives him even more chances, more opportunities to get a goal, and he should. I think he'll get a couple of goals in this double game week.
But Rafinha's pairs do look strong.
Rafinha's good.
Yeah, if you look at he came in game week 9 for the first start, and ever since then, if you look at his fixtures as pairs, he's only failed to get double figures in 1 pair. That's between game weeks 12 and 13. In every other pair of game weeks, he's delivered 10, 11, 12,
That's
14,
good,
15
Mark.
points.
That is good. That's very good.
So you look at that and you think the actual potential is greater for Rafinha based on his recent data and those pairs. So it's not. I know the penalties.
I like that. I really like that.
It is interesting, isn't it, how efficient Rafinha has been. It's quite surprising. You wouldn't consider him a player to have delivered that consistently, but there it is. He's done.
And his ownership's so low still. He's still around the 3% mark.
Yeah. Ings down the bottom there, much more varied. I mean, he's had an injury prone.
6% now.
He's had an injury ravaged season where he hasn't had consistent starts. This current spell is probably his most consistent run of starts. And so there, you have had double figure returns, but only in 4 of 9, 4 of 10. So, if you're putting the armband on Ings, you're taking a greater risk, it seems, than Bamford and Rafinha. I don't think you need me to tell you that. The lowest risk is looking like Rafinha. He looks like the most likely to get you double figures. I think the ceiling on Bamford is higher with, he's got returns of 22, 19 and 20 over pairs this season. Rafinha can't match that, but Rafinha has been more consistent. So
you're going for Rafinha then?
Well, I am. I am strongly considering it. Yeah. Let's look at your team first, though, and see what you're going to do. What's your plan then? Have you made any transfers into this team at the moment?
No, I haven't, and I was debating because Rafinha went up last night, but me and that hashtag.
You don't care about team value, okay? Fair enough.
I definitely do, but I wanted to wait, and with the Kane news. So my initial thoughts were Rashford and Antonio out for Rafinha and Kane.
Right.
So that seemed logical until tonight. Rashford is a bit of a funny one because I do back United to win against Newcastle, but equally he could be stuck out on the right again. and Rafinha's got the double game week. So even if Rashford does do quite well, I still think Rafinha's got potential to do well in the 2 games. So it doesn't feel like too much of a gamble. And then Antonio, I love Antonio. I love him with all my heart, but the fixtures are pretty rough. And I want to get in Kane for that double. If I'm picking between Son and Kane, I'm going to go for Kane, which was why I was kind of happy to sell Son last week. So that's what I'm planning to do. If everyone's, if Antonio's out and we hear any more news about Kane, then that's pretty much going to lock it in. Because obviously I need to get some funds from somewhere to get Kane in. So yeah, probably going to do Rashford and Antonio to Kane and Rafinha.
Okay, that's not for a hit. That's your 2.
That is for a hit.
Oh, it is for a hit.
-1.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay. All right. And the captaincy very much on Patrick. Fair enough.
On one bam. Yep.
Yep. My team at the moment: Pope, Cancelo, Diaz, Tarkowski, Rafinha, Vice, Fernandes, Gundogan, Son, Calvert-Lewin, Antonio, Bamford. I've also got 2 free transfers. Trent's my first sub there. Now, my plan was Soufal to Dallas, which I'm probably going to do. So he comes in and it'll probably be one of Calvert-Lewin or Antonio to make way there. I don't think Cancelo is going to play, so I think that'll be a moot point anyway. But I'll start Cancelo and hope he does play. Now, the other transfer I was going to do was Antonio to Kane. But there's 2 factors here. One, Ings I know now has another double game week after 25 because Pep's let it out of the bag, and he possibly has 2. So Antonio to Ings kind of makes sense because it covers the captaincy as well. That means then that I will have to use a transfer in 26 if I want Kane, and it'll probably have to be either Bamford, who then drops out my team for 29 making way, or Calvert-Lewin making way, because Kane has got better doubles than Calvert-Lewin, I would say, and I want Kane as my triple captain. So it's quite a big decision, this, whether I make 2 transfers. I could just do Soufal to Dallas and drop Calvert-Lewin to the bench as first sub, or Antonio to first sub rather, and play Calvert-Lewin. That might be what I do, and carry the 2 transfers again. This will be the longest time I've carried 2 transfers. I've had 2 transfers for about 7 game weeks or something, 5 or 6 rather, I exaggerate. But I can't commit to these 2 transfers. I keep saying
There'll be people cursing.
I need to save them. I need to save them. But I do like the idea of gambling on Ings, because I look at this and think there's a lot of teams around me I know who have got just 1 Leeds player, or they've got 2, but they've only got 1 free transfer. So the most they can go to is 3 Leeds, whereas I can go 3 Leeds and a Southampton. And if it comes in, if that Leeds-Southampton fixture is a bit of a goal fest, which could be, I'm going to make some ground up. So I look at this as a chance to make up ground. I also look at it and go, what is going on with Kane? Is there something going on here? And maybe I'm not going to want him for 26 anyway. So I am currently debating that, and I will make the decision late tomorrow about what to do. But at the moment, I am leaning towards Antonio to Ings, Soufal to Dallas. And that will mean benching Calvert-Lewin probably. But I think Calvert-Lewin will come off the bench because Cancelo probably won't play or won't figure. But we'll see.
I think Dallas should be coming in. I think I can't see any reason not to bring him in.
That's a gimme, that one. That's a gimme, yeah.
Yeah, and then Antonio to Ings just feels like quite a nice kind of like bit of a punt. See how it goes. Got 2 games. I think those 2 moves are solid.
Yeah, and I look at it and think, well, it means that I might have to take some hits when I get to 29. But when I think about it, a 4-point hit is only a 2-point hit if you're getting a player in who's going to play. And if I'm wildcarding in 30 or 31, it doesn't matter if they're dead wood either, because I've only got them for 1 week, maybe not even that. So I think taking a couple of hits in 29 is all right. I can allow myself that if I'm getting more points in this up front, which is what I hope I'll be doing by getting Ings now. So we'll see. The captaincy is going to go right to the wire. I've got it on Bamford because it seems sensible. I think one thing for me is I don't want to watch that Leeds game and not want Bamford to score. And that will be the case if I don't captain him. I'll be watching it going, well, I'll be willing Bamford not to score, which feels wrong, doesn't it? And I hate that when you're in that situation. So I want to avoid
true. That. This is the ownership debate, but it's also that one of Rafinha's got much lower ownership, and if he outscores Bamford, then you get a bigger reward for it. So if you think that Rafinha outscores Bamford in this week, and it's like I always say this: if you think a player is going to outscore another player, I would never be swayed by ownership, ever. I just don't agree with it. I just don't think it's the way to play. I understand about not wanting to risk it and being worried and stuff, but you've got to play with a bit of, says the 700k rank. You've got to play with a bit of swagger and a bit of.
I think you're inspiring me.
Got to be ballsy.
I like Rafinha a lot, and I feel like I've got him in. Since I've got him in, he's done really well for me. I haven't had him long, and I don't think he's blanked since I've had him. So the omens are good for me with him, and I do think, as we've seen tonight, his consistency is stronger than Bamford, or has been since game week 9, and he's outscored him as well since game week 9. But it's just the agony of watching Leeds play and not wanting Bamford to score, which would be a strange situation. So I'm still torn on that. And of course,
I think they both do well. So
yeah,
I don't think it's going to be a huge difference between them.
No, it's just Rafinha's points will do more for me than Bamford's. There's no doubt about that. So it is tempting to go with him. We'll see. I'll probably tweet out on Friday. I don't think I'm going to do a pre-deadline video. I'm not going to keep that. I know. I mean, they've done all right. I like doing them, but we'll see. I might have time after work, but it's an early deadline, isn't it? Was it 6:30?
Oh, it is. Yeah, good point. Yeah,
6:30 deadline.
Oh God, it's tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Get your act together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's look quickly at the BlackBox League, because Luka Bubnik is still carrying the banner, if you like, into the top 100 for us. He's 20th overall. He had a decent game week, 92
Amazing.
points. Yeah, he's in a lot of leagues, a lot of podcast and stream leagues, but he's top of ours, so we're cheering for him. In Andy's, he's probably 10th, because Andy's league is miles away. I'll tell you who had a bad game week, like Ryan Longstaff. He was second last week when we looked at league. He had a 77, the worst game week in the top 20, and he's dropped down to 6. So commiserations, Ryan, but I'm sure he can get back into it. Yeah, I mean, it would be great if Luka can do some damage and get into the top 10 with a few game weeks go, so we've got someone to cheer for on that final day, wouldn't it? I do love final day when you've got some names in there you followed. Yeah.
Is it? I mean, it's interesting with the world number one, because we were obviously talking to him last week, and he captained Ben Mee. So, because I think, what was it, the week? Because he's got players like Bernardo Silva in, and he's very much like, I'm just going to play the game my own way. Because I said to him, when you're that high, aren't you tempted to kind of consolidate a bit and block people off? And aren't you worried about players like Gundogan and stuff? And he was like, why'd I be worried? Like, I'm doing well, like following my gut, number one, just going to keep doing that. So fair play to him. I don't know how I would be if I was world number one.
I know how I would be. I would be racked with fear and paranoia, and I wouldn't be sleeping, and I'd be like spending my days just assessing everybody else's team around me and trying to spot where, and probably end
rocking back and forth.
Yeah, I'd end up blowing it. I mean, I watched it, and he's been very cool about it, and also he's been very transparent on social media. He's telling people what he's doing and what he's considering. And again, I don't know if I was in his position, would I be doing that? I don't know. I'd like to think I would, because I enjoy doing this show and other stuff, but it's probably a problem we're never going to have, as I would say. But it's worth speculating.
I wouldn't have thought so.
No, never not. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just over to you to do the usual smash and likes. We've got a good audience in tonight. It must be the Thursday night.
Nearly 2,000 watching. Thank you, everyone. If you all hit the like button right now, do it right now. Then that'd be nice, because we've only got 214 likes so far. 2 dislikes. Cheers for that.
Was that my mum?
Yeah, probably my dad and your mum. Hi Dad. I think he's probably watching. League code, by the way, for anyone who wants to join our league, is V8TX2P. So make sure you join that. We're trying to build it up. We want to overtake Let's Talk one day. That's the ultimate aim.
Yeah, a few seasons away from that, but yeah, one day.
Long way to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, so obviously like and sub. Amazing having 2,000 people watching live, and obviously we haven't got too long until the deadline tomorrow, which I need to remember is tomorrow. So thank you everyone for watching and tuning in, and we will see you next week.
We will. Don't know when it'll be. Hopefully by then we'll have the bloody fixtures. It's a good night for me.
Yeah, I hope so. Good night, everyone.